Hello. So you somehow ended up here. Welcome to FearFab. I'm Pedro, and I'm kind of obsessed with things that make you stop and go, wait, there is no way that actually happened. True mysteries, strange disappearances, disturbing moments in history, unexplained cases. Basically, it's the kind of story that sends you in a rabbit hole at 2 a.m. in the morning. We're probably going to talk about it here. And for my first video, by the way, it's my first video ever with my face on it. So, and for my first video, I wanted to try something. I'm going to show you 5 photographs. Some of them don't look scary at all. And I want you to look at each one before I tell you the story behind it. Because once you know what actually happened, you're probably never going to look at that photograph the same way again. So, let's begin. So, let's start with this one. Photo number 5, the Hinterkaifeck farm. Now, I probably said that wrong. It's okay, but look at this picture for a second. It's just an old farmhouse. Nothing particularly scary about it. But in 1922, this little farm in Bavaria became one of Germany's most disturbing unsolved mystery cases. 6 people lived here, and before they died, strange things reportedly started happening around the property. The owner, Andreas Gruber, reportedly discovered footprints going from the forest into the farm. The disturbing part, he couldn't find footprints leading back out. There were also reports of noises coming from the attic. Then, on March 31st, 1922, something happened. And for several days, nobody outside the farm realized that the 6 people living there were dead. On April 4, people finally went to investigate. 4 members of the family were discovered in the barn. The family's young child and their newly arrived maid were found inside of the house. All 6 had been murdered. But there's a detail that makes this story much worse. Evidence indicated that somebody had stayed in the farm after the murders had taken place. Why? Because the animals had been cared for. Food had apparently been eaten. There were signs that the fireplace had been used, meaning that while 6 bodies were lying around the property, someone had been casually been living in there. The farm eventually was demolished, and despite an enormous investigation, the murders never were conclusively solved. Now look at the picture again, knowing that somewhere inside of that ordinary farmhouse, someone may have been hiding before the murders and may have stayed there afterwards. Suddenly, it doesn't look so peaceful. Now we move on to photo number 4, the Andes survivors. This photo may look like a group of exhausted men just standing in the mountains, but the circumstances around this photograph are almost impossible to imagine. In October 1972, a plane carrying 45 people crashed high in the Andes. Many of the passengers inside were part of a Uruguayan rugby team, along with friends and family. Some died in the crash. Others died afterward from their injuries. And the people who survived were suddenly stranded from the crash, high in the mountains, surrounded by snow, no food. They waited for rescuers. Days passed, and then something devastating happened. They heard on a small radio that they had recovered from the crash that the search had been called off. Now, imagine hearing that. You're freezing, you're starving, and all of a sudden, the last hope that you had gone. And you know nobody's coming. The situation became really desperate, and the survivors had to make choices, per se. What they actually had to do to stay alive is eat the people that had actually passed from the crash. So what this group of guys did to survive was essentially commit cannibalism on one another. Well, the people that had passed away, but still, if you think about it, that's some crazy stuff. Now, thankfully, there was 2 people, 2 survivors that actually started walking because there was nobody coming for them. So they had to make a run for it because otherwise they would just be stranded forever and eventually die, not knowing exactly where they were or if there was civilization near, they started walking. And somehow they actually found somebody that eventually was able to help them. And on December 23rd, the survivors were rescued. 16 people ultimately survived. So think about it. When you look at this picture and you see these guys standing in the mountain, you're not just looking at people just happily out in nature. You're actually looking at people who had to make choices to stay alive that will stay with them forever. Now, photo number 3, Robert Landsberg and Mount St. Helens. Now, this one is different because the photographer knew something terrible was happening. On May 18th, 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted. Photographer Robert Landsberg was near the volcano when it erupted. And when the eruption began, he photographed it. The enormous cloud of smoke just grew immensely and it came closer. And at some point, Landsberg realized that he wasn't going to be able to outrun it. It was just coming way too fast towards him. Now, when he realized he wasn't going to be able to actually outrun it, he actually secured the camera in a backward facing position and he just kept running. And he eventually passed away, but the camera actually stayed intact, or at least intact enough where the footage or the photographs were able to be recovered. Which means when you look at these photographs, you're looking at basically what ended up taking his life. The last moments of this guy just right there in front of us. Okay, now we're moving on to photo number 2, Omaira Sanchez. Look at her eyes. This photo was taken in Colombia in 1985. The girl you're looking at is Omaira Sanchez. She was 13 years old, and when this photograph had been taken, she had been trapped for almost 3 days. On November 13, 1985, the Nevado del Ruiz volcano had erupted, but it wasn't lava that destroyed Elmira's town. The eruption had actually melted tons of snow in the mountain, creating mudslides and floods just crashing into the town. Entire neighborhoods disappeared, thousands of people were killed, and Elmira became trapped under the remains of her house. Rescuers found her alive, but there was a problem. Her legs were pinned under the debris. They couldn't simply just pull her out. Rescue workers stayed with her. They tried to keep her comfortable as best as they could. They placed a tire around her to keep her above the water. And Amara, she waited for hours, and then it became an entire day, then another. Cameras arrived, journalists arrived, and people around the world were watching this little girl waiting to be rescued. But the equipment they needed to free her wasn't available in time. Eventually, Amara became weaker. Photographer Frank Armero eventually showed up to this little girl's town, and he took the picture that you're looking at now. This picture wasn't taken weeks before or days. It was actually taken hours before she passed. After being trapped for 3 days, eventually she just died. Fournier's photography actually became one of the most famous pictures from the disaster, and it was named the 1986 World Press Photo of the Year. And I think the reason why this picture is so difficult to look at is because she's not screaming, there's no monster, there's nothing supernatural. She's just looking at the camera, waiting for help to arrive in time. Okay, now we're going to photo number 1. Okay, for the last one, I want you to actually participate. I'm going to put up a photo on the screen and I want you to figure out what's wrong with it. Don't Google it, don't skip ahead, just look at it. This picture was taken in the Philippines during New Year celebrations in 2011. The people in front of the camera are smiling. It looks like a completely family photograph, just a normal picture. But look behind them. Look at the man in the background. Yeah, that guy. That's a gun, and it's pointed directly at the guy taking the picture. The man taking this photograph was Reynaldo Daxa, a local councilman. He had gone outside with his family during the celebration. He raised his camera, his family smiled, and he pressed the shutter. But without realizing it, Ronaldo captured the photo of the man who would end up taking his life. Moments right after this photograph, he was shot. His family rushed him to the hospital, but unfortunately, he didn't survive. But then, when his family went back and looked at the photograph, suddenly this photograph was not a family picture anymore. It became evidence because standing directly behind them was the man who was aiming straight at Reynaldo. And there was something else. There was another man in the picture who the police later identified as a lookout for the gunman. Now, think about how unbelievable that is for you to take a photograph and in that instant take a picture of somebody who is about to take your life just seconds later. I mean, you're talking about one in a million type of thing. And that's why I saved this picture for last, because when you look at it, you see a family. But in reality, you're looking at a murder in the making, which is just crazy to me. And that is why photographs like this truly freak me out. A camera doesn't know what's important, doesn't know what's about to happen. It just captures, it just freezes a moment in time. And with that comes the end of this video. And I just want to thank you if you made it all the way to the end. Again, this is a brand new channel and we'll be uploading a lot of different scary things, creepy things, things that, you think about in the middle of the night and you're like, wow, like did that actually happen? Or just weird things about everyday life that sometimes are scary. But anyway, I hope you like this video. Please subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.